A woman on fire. Hello, this is Christine Huck. I'm here to read to you again the Rantings of a Seer, the Making of a Saint of Harrowing Beginnings. That's chapter 8. And I'm just going to jump right in. This one will tell of its intent very quickly. Okay. Of Harrowing Beginnings. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of past to dwell in. That's Isaiah 58:12. I came home all right. Let me just pick it up from where we left off, because last time I read to you the chapter called, Oh, for sure, that's from God, where I met a man and I actually had a vision about him and I jumped into relationship with him, and I ended up, of course, against God's, his word. And I ended up broken. But at the end of that experience, the Lord told me to go back home, to go home. And that meant to go to church, go back to church, the church I had belonged to. And so I went back, and this is where we left off. Okay. So I came home all right and very angry. My hackles were up, and I pointed a blaming finger as if to say, you are the cause of my pain. And that finger indicated 1,000 reasons why. Although my mouth was shut, if someone on my list came near, they quickly knew to stay clear. The eyes are, in fact, the window to the soul, and out from mine shot fire. But what I didn't understand is that in this fire, I am the one being exposed. I, the very me who at the core of my being, the place where my life was built, is what God is revealing. When in the Sexual Abuse Restoration and Healing, this is called Sarah group, our trusted leader spoke of the core of our being, I would nod in agreement, even though I didn't fully understand. At the core of anything is its center. Everything revolves around the core. For example, at the core of our planet, gravity is maintained, the earth spins, and we are grounded. But tilt the axis of that center and everything becomes unbalanced. Some things float, some crash, some burn. Me, my core, was tilted, unbalanced, floating, crashing, and burning. This was my life. Now, with the light on my core, God opened my eyes so I could see me in a dream. I saw myself as a child. It appeared I was near the age of 4, maybe 5, sitting alone on the floor of a dark room. There were no doors, but there was one single window. As enough gray light crept in, my solitary prison was revealed. The walls were bare and the floor was cold. Keenly aware of being alone, I felt resolved and did not look for comfort. Something grabbed my attention. My knees then were drawn to my chest, and with my arms suspended around them, but not touching. Outside of the room, I saw the light and felt the force of multiple explosions, one after another. A fierce battle was raging that I was unable to see, yet every part of me violently shook. My mouth opened, but no scream could be heard. I was overcome. The revelation of me at my core, the place where all things revolved, was, in a word, trauma. I remembered as a kid things flying in the air and loud yelling arguments. I remember walking down the street with my mother and siblings to a friend's house where we stayed away from Dad for a time. Was that the event that left such a scar? No, it can be traumatic for any child when their world is shaken. But was that the root of my damage? Probably not. I also remember going over to a man's house on the weekends for years. Lured by candy and games, I had been befriended by a perpetrator. He hid his real identity in a large community around children's sports. I was raised to behave as told, sit down and shut up, eat this, behave. I was never taught to say no or to speak out. I was a prime target. For my parents, he dangled Saturday nights without the hassle of small children. Little chocolate pieces laid on the ground drew me into his trap. The cage door dropped with a thud. I had been victimized over and over and over again. So many times the years blurred. Counting is fruitless. For me, post-traumatic stress disorder becomes the marker of the death of my childhood. Yeah. So now we're kind of getting into it now. This is for me, in my story, in my life, this is where I had always known it. Now I'm looking at it. I had always understood that happened, but I moved on in my life. Now I'm directed to it. Now God is saying, now's the time. Give it consideration. I want you to see what it's done to you. And it may not have been entirely the sexual abuse. There were other causes that brought me to this stage or the state of being resolved, if you know what I mean. To be resolved is to be kind of accepting of the fact that there is no help. And I was in that room, that picture on that floor. It was probably like a cement floor. It was cold. I remember that. And I was alone, and I didn't look for any help. And that kind of was the way I was brought up. I was brought up to be very independent, very alone. I played by myself. I was comfortable by myself. If I was told to do something, I just better get it done and not ask for any help. I mean, that was just the way it was. And we didn't question that. And that was part of what I had mentioned here, as I was told, sit down, shut up, and behave myself. And out of that came a very passive individual, believe it or not, independently passive. Somebody told me to do something and it sounded like authority. I didn't question it. And that was kind of a theme throughout my life, but that put me in danger on several periods of my life. Several times I had experienced this kind of vulnerability to other people's intent. And but I think what's important at this particular stage is that God was showing me, and my life was built on this foundation. You know, it's the contrast between the temple of God, which is where what God is forming in us, and the house that we have lived in as a sinful, what's the right word? I'm trying to look for the right word. I'm not trying to make something it's not. I'm just a sinful people. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. We have all fallen short. We live, our lives are built on the foundation of the fathers. My father's foundation, my mother's foundation, her father's foundation was inflicted on me. And in the Lord, I had to see that first. I couldn't go directly to, I'm a new creature in Christ, and I wish I was, because I wouldn't have had to go through what I went through. But the truth is that I had to go through that. I had to go that direction. I had to see who I had become as a person, as an individual, aside from all the reasons and the desires and the being wrong and all of that. That's what people try to make in church. Okay, I'm just saying, I'm not degrading the church. I am not putting the church down. I'm just saying there needs to be an increased level of understanding that when a person acts out, they generally act out of this. The foundation of their life triggers trauma. There are reasons why people do what they do. And so my effort to bring an awareness is to bring an awareness to you. If you're listening to me, I want you to pray about it. Please just pray about it. Ask the Lord, Father, is this a condition in my life that my life was built on this kind of foundation? It doesn't mean that you have been trained. I don't know what to call it. I don't know if I was trained to be wildly independent or and not be able to depend on people for anything, nothing. And it took this hardship and brokenness to get me to ask for help, so that when the door did open, I was able to walk through it. But I may not have walked through it otherwise. I may have, I don't know. But the truth is that the Sarah group, Sexual Abuse Restoration and Healing group, was available to me after I had discovered my vulnerability to it. And that was the abuse that I suffered as a child. Now, there are other conditions to this foundation. It is not just the sexual abuse that I talked about. And that has to do with generational curses. It has to do with cults, call it what you will. But I'm not going to get into that right away, because the Lord didn't take me into it right away. He took me to the place that I needed to see, so that my heart can change towards myself and other people. By the time I was able to see that I was not the person I thought I was, that I was this broken person, alone and isolated, captive in this room, dungeon-like, I could then have compassion on myself. The first commandment says that we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. But how could I love myself when I didn't know myself? How could I love the real me without first seeing? Now, I don't know that the Lord reveals these things to everybody, but I would pray that he would. I would pray for you that he would. In fact, where we're going in this group is we're going to come into a greater aspect of prayer and deliverance. Deliverance. It was so cool. I won't tell you about it. I won't spoil it, but we'll share for another time. Probably the next conversation I have with Renee, we can both talk about it. But that's the plan. So we go on Zoom next time, Renee and I'm hoping, I'm praying that you join us. 1, 2, doesn't matter. I'm not going to despise small beginnings, but I've seen where this can go in other groups, and I've seen it in other people that function in the capacity that God is leading me. And so as their example goes before me, I know, as a confirmation of what God has shown me, that, that is, wow, look at that. So I knew God was speaking to me about it. And then it was revealed to me. So there you go. Next time we do a Zoom, I hope that you come and join us, and with expectation. I mean, this isn't just, and this isn't, it's not going to be scary either. As you'll note, I have not talked about any act of abuse. I used to lead the Sarah groups, and the book will share some of that. But part of the aspect of leading the group is recognizing that when women come into a group with the intent of looking directly at what they have suffered in their life, they come in, they're afraid. Many of them are very afraid. And you don't have to fear, because we're not going to get into the details of what happened to you. But what we're going to look at is the effect of that trauma that it's had on you. That's where we're going. Will we talk about it later? I don't know. Right now, it's not where God is leading me. But so I'm going to stay focused. We are a young group. We're growing. We're learning. And but this experience that I have, I want you to have. I want you to see the truth about who you are. It was the truth that set me free here. I could go, oh, I'm not as all that as I thought I was. And even when I thought I was some of that, who I thought I should have been, I always carried huge amounts of insecurity around with me. And they always went ahead of me, either that or like money. Some people, it's their looks. Some people are very beautiful, very handsome, and they will use that in a charming fashion to gain attention and affection. Me, it was money. On the occasions that I had it, I haven't always had it, but I have had money at times in my life. It gives you a sense of confidence and a reliance. You don't have to be dependent on other people or circumstance. You can have what you want, or that you're like most women want. They want this sense of security. And I had that because of the money that I had. But when that was taken away, life, ups and downs of life, uh, I had to find out where my real security laid, and that was in Jesus Christ. And that was what the compassion that he had on me, and that was the mercy that he had on me, and that was his extension and intervention into my life. And I hope to be that for you, an extension of Jesus Christ who operates in me and through me to you to affect change, the change that you need. And then out of that, and I tell you, the last, well, just joy, 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 joy. I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Right. You can expect that. So is this a harrowing beginning, or is this a good expectation? Anytime God gives you a dream or a vision, it's to advance you, it's to grow you, it's to change you, and it's to deliver you, it's to heal you, it's to bless you. The Lord will do nothing but bless you. And even in his discipline, it's a blessing. So we don't have to be afraid of what he can do for us. So there you go. And I pray to be an extension of that. Look for Renee and I on Zoom coming up. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about what it is to live a life on the foundation and how it reverberates into our relationships and how we connect to people, and what our expectations are, and how what we expect out of God. Oh, I'm going to get zapped any moment because God is angry with me because I've done something wrong. And that's what a lot of us believe. Unless you have been delivered, unless you come into relationship with Jesus Christ, you'll learn that he is not a vengeful God against you, because you are his child and he loves you dearly. He has paid the ultimate price for you. And that's our belief. So come and join us, and we can talk more about that and what it means. All right. So I love you, ladies. I hope this blesses you. Leave a comment. I want to know who's watching, and if it's put a little sparkle of hope in your heart. That's what I want to know. All right. God bless. Bye.